Hello everyone, Tony from Hack the Movies here, and today we're going to be talking about the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein Workprint cut. That's right. If you're familiar with this channel, you probably know that we covered this movie last October. Check out that episode. It is a very detailed breakdown of that movie. We had a lot to say about this film. Of course, it was produced by Francis Ford Coppola, who just got done doing Bram Stoker's Dracula. He let Kenneth Branagh kind of take the reins on this one, and it led to mixed results, but this isn't a review of the actual movie. I already have that. Check that out if you haven't. One of the things I mentioned in the review was that there was a Workprint cut out there. And as luck would have it, a good fan, Tyler Yost, actually found the Workprint cut for me and sent it to me. And I was able to finally see the deleted and missing scenes that I have longed to have seen for a really long time. Some of you might remember I was real interested in knowing about the zombie dog scene that I theorized existed. Well, we're going to find out if that's true or not today. Now, with a lot of these work prints and alternate cuts, there are little stuff like little dialogue changes, alternate takes for some stuff. I'm not going to bore you with those minute details. I'm going to focus on stuff that I think is interesting, something that stands out to me, or something that just wasn't in the cut of the film, like a big moment or sequence. So yeah, let's get into it.
And quicken the beatings of the heart.
The beginning with the crew is a little longer and not as quickly edited. There's even some additional shots of the dogs dying. There's an additional shot of the creature climbing. His hand grabs onto a gargoyle, which makes me think this was meant to be in a later scene, possibly when Victor's back at the mansion and we know the creature is stalking them. I think it might have been for the scene where the creature kills Elizabeth. And it might be hard to see in this footage when I'm talking about, but this shot was actually used for a lot of the trailers of the film. And it's always interesting when you get to see something that you saw in a trailer that didn't make it into the final product. And yeah, I've seen this trailer many times and I'm just like, what was that? What is that hand there for? What scene was that originally meant for? I don't think it was meant for this scene, but they must have liked it enough that they tried to work it into this. Now, in my initial review, I did talk about how this whole opening scene in the theatrical cut is edited very well. It's very tense, very fast. It's giving you as much information as you need to know. And I just love the pacing and stuff in the theatrical cut until it gets ruined by dancing. But again, check out that episode. The way it's edited now, it allows the scenes to breathe a little bit. It's very slower paced. Not bad, but it definitely takes its time. They extend the dialogue here and there. It definitely feels more natural, I guess, but it doesn't really get the blood pumping like it did in the theatrical cut. So I understand why they changed it later on, especially if they were trying to chop the movie down. You could trim a lot of this because it's just the framing device. You just really want to know Victor's here, he met the captain, he's telling the story. That's all we need to know at that moment. So it was good that they actually chopped this down later on.
What's out there? I've been chasing him for months. I have to finish it. Listen to me. I have spent 6 years planning this, my entire fortune. What's out there? Listen to me. I have spent 6 years planning this, my entire fortune.
There's also a little narration when the flashback starts. I wonder if they plan to have narration throughout the film, but if that was the case, it didn't make it into either of the cuts except for right here.
Hear my story, Captain Walton, and be warned.
Since the ADR wasn't finished, the shot where Ian Holm brings little Elizabeth to Frankenstein Mansion, it has him talking to Justine Moritz's mom, and it's just a completely different actor saying the line.
Would you and your daughter leave us, please, Mrs. Moritz?
Doctor?
Leave us now, Mrs. Moritz.
Doctor?
In this version, Elizabeth asks if Victor will never die, and he says,
I won't, if you won't.
I guess they thought there were too many scenes already of him being scared of death, and they didn't need this additional one. Now it makes it seem like his obsession with conquering death starts here, because he made a promise to his future sister wife. Also, later at the ball, there's a callback to this line.
I went if you won't.
And the line delivery always sounded weird to me in the theatrical cut, but that's because I didn't know it was a callback. Now that I know it's a callback, haven't seen this cut, it doesn't come off as weird. But yeah, because there was just so much emphasis on that line. But since we never saw the setup, it just stands out to me. Getting back to Ian Holm, in the theatrical cut, there was that famous scene where after his wife dies, giving birth to Victor's brother, William, he announces his presence by screaming, an inaudible scream. In the Workprint cut, he says something, and a team of experts, and by that I mean the movie dumpster guys, who I did the review with, I brought them in to figure out what the hell he's saying. Here's the clip.
I killed my wife!
So Sean said, "And as I killed my wife," which doesn't make sense, but that is kind of what it sounds like. Yeah, I think he does say something about killing his wife. Joe said, "Heaven help me, I killed my wife." I'm going to play the clip one more time. You let me know what you think he said.
I killed my wife!
So in the actual cut of the film, it kind of teases this sort of love triangle between Justine, Elizabeth, and Victor. And I don't know if it was ever filmed, but there must have been an earlier draft of the script where that is more present, because at the end of the film, he ends up stitching Elizabeth to Justine's dead body to make the bride. So he kind of took the two girls who loved him and made them into one. That sounds interesting, but it's not really explored too much in the theatrical cut. The Workprint cut doesn't add much more, but it does have a scene where Justine is the one to kind of convince Victor to keep up with his studies, go back to college.
You have a calling to fight sickness and disease.
It's not enough, Justine.
But she also warns him not to tamper with the rules of nature, which he ignores.
We have to fight death itself.
You can't interfere with nature, Victor.
I'm guessing they decided to downplay the love triangle aspect and remove the scene and replaced it with him talking to his mother's tombstone. The tombstone scene now moves to after the ball scene. Before Ingolstadt, when they're running through the field and they do that weird electricity experiment, I can't tell if it's my VHS work print, but the electricity effect that they have, it doesn't look done. It looks very different from what the theatrical version is. At first, I didn't think there was electricity, but there definitely is, and it just looks real goofy with their fingers pointing at each other.
Alive!
Alive.
So, skipping ahead, the dog scene. I was really excited to finally find the dog scene. Now, I mentioned in the review that there was some kind of foreshadowing to this dog. Earlier in the film, Victor had this mechanical dog, and I knew that there was a cut scene involving what I'm about to talk about, but it never showed up. Here it is. So the scene is Victor's landlord, who owns the sheepdog, gets hit by a carriage. It's already hit by the carriage. We don't see it. And she's crying, and Victor and Waldman, not to be confused with Walton, that's the boat captain. Waldman is his professor, John Cleese. They are trying to use electricity and stuff to keep the dog alive. Because remember, Waldman at this point in the story, he had experimented on stuff, but decided not to go through with it, and he's keeping secrets from Victor. And he's trying to keep the dog alive as natural as possible. And Victor's like, it's not strong enough. You got to tell me what your secret method is to reanimating life. And Waldman decides not to tell him, and then the dog dies.
Where is the prime constituent? The link between matter and life!
And that's it. I was really expecting a zombie dog. We get a zombie frog in the theatrical cut. And in my mind, he was going to do zombie frog, zombie dog, and then the Frankenstein monster. But no, that's it. However, I did find something interesting. So in 2004, there was a mini-series about Frankenstein for the Hallmark Channel, I think, based off the novel. It is the most faithful adaptation of the book to date. Like, this movie was at one point, not enough, but was at least attempting. This miniseries is as faithful as you're going to get for now. Frankenstein in that, he sees a dog get hit by a carriage, and he remembers a dog from his youth. And then in that version, he does bring the dog back to life when we get a zombie dog for a little bit, but then it ends up dying because it's not strong enough. I'm positive he didn't do any experiments on a dog in the book. But that's kind of interesting that they tried to, both movies had a dog zombification reanimation scene. That's pretty funny. By the way, the main actor in the Frankenstein miniseries who plays Frankenstein is the main actor who played Paul in the made-for-TV Dune. And William Hurt, the late William Hurt, is in both of them. And they're both the most faithful adaptations of the source material. To learn more about Dune, check out our best Dune episode. We covered the 3 live-action adaptations. We had a lot to say about that. But moving on. There's an added scene where Henry berates Victor for what he's doing and mentions that the asshole from earlier in the movie died. In my initial review, I had no idea that the bully ended up being one of the cadavers Victor uses later.
He looks like fucking Gaston.
Yeah, he does.
And he comes up and he's like, "Get out of my way, lackeys."
Yeah, and I'm sure that might have had some setup for something.
Never comes back.
They take his leg.
Huh?
They take his leg.
That's that guy?
That's that guy.
What did he die from?
Holy shit.
Cholera. Or was it cholera that they were all dying from?
Yeah, it was cholera.
I guess so, yeah.
I didn't realize that's the guy.
Me
later
neither.
Because
on.
I'm skipping ahead a little, but it's like in that scene when that happens, I was like, am I supposed to know who the fuck that is? So I looked it up. You don't necessarily can make that correlation because he's like in a scene and you don't see him again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This scene makes it a lot clearer.
Do you remember Schiller?
Oh, yes.
He died last night. They think it might be cholera.
There's some extra dialogue where Elizabeth realizes Justine loves Victor. Neither version of the movie really plays out the whole love triangle, so it made sense to cut this. In the theatrical cut, Frankenstein struggles to stand the creature up. The scene is pretty quiet, which is nice because it's preceded by a bunch of yelling. In the work print, Victor can't shut up and is constantly yelling at the creature.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong? Come on, you're alive. What's wrong?
So from here on out, movie plays mostly the same with the creature living next to the family. And getting back to the gore, I was expecting this cut to be a lot bloodier and a lot gorier with a lot more violence. This is an example of the complete opposite. In the theatrical cut, the landlord comes to, yell at the family asking for rent, and the creature picks him up and shoves his head through the top of the house. In this one, the creature comes out and just cuts to black. So it's actually a less violent version of the scene. I was real let down by that. So one of the bigger De Niro moments in the film is where he screams, "I will have my revenge," and then screams Frankenstein's name.
I will have revenge, Frankenstein!
In the work print, he never says, "I will have my revenge." He just says Frankenstein. And I kind of like that version better, to be honest. I think De Niro is a really great actor, and I think even through the makeup, he was acting really well. He really shines in this film, which is a shame that so much of it doesn't really focus on him for a long time. And I actually like it better in this, where he just screams the name, because you get it right away. He's already read the journal. He knows who Victor is. He knows Victor's responsible, and that's it. But for whatever reason, in post, they decided, we need him to say, "I will have my revenge," to really get it across to the audience. You should trust your audience a little bit. Maybe they won't pick up on anything, like me, not picking up on that dead guy. But I think anyone could have watched this and could have known, oh, he wants revenge now.
Frankenstein!
There's some added dialogue in the meeting with Victor and the creature. In the theatrical cut, it comes off like he's bragging about killing Victor's brother.
You murdered my brother, didn't you?
I took him by the throat. One hand.
He actually seems to be more remorseful over the killing of William.
Do you think I am evil? Do you think the dying cries of your brother were music in my ears?
The scenes following Victor's promise to the creature to make him a mate play off entirely different than the theatrical cut. In the theatrical, he sets up his lab, and then he finds out the creature wants to use Justine, and then he decides that he's not going to go through with it anymore.
Materials, remember? Nothing more. Your words.
In the work print, he sees Justine's body, he's horrified, and then he just kind of goes along with it.
The brainstem was destroyed in the hanging. We'll need another. The rest of the body looks as though it will do.
Some of the extremities are too decayed. They'll have to be replaced. The fresher, the better.
So the creature goes out and kills a random prostitute. And what I liked about this scene is we get to see, after she's done with the sailor or whatever, we see her coming out of like this little narrow passageway, and we see the creature's shadow on the wall. And that shot was used for one of the trailers, but again, it's one of those things that didn't show up in the final product. So I was actually glad to see the scene. Again, not very violent. She just kind of screams. I think he puts his hand on her mouth or something, and then it's done. He brings her back to Victor, and then when Victor realizes that it's a fresh kill, and now that the creature has escalated from grave robbing to murder, now he's done with it.
What is this? A brain, extremities. This was not taken from a grave. What does it matter?
And then this is when the creature grabs him and yells at him. So it was actually pretty clever how they edited in the theatrical cut. So because you don't even notice that the environment kind of changes. Because in the work print, he sees Justine's body on the slab. Then he starts building the lab. The prostitute comes, he ends it. In the theatrical cut, he builds the lab, sees Justine, and ends it. So if you look carefully, the backgrounds and all are changing behind them. They stuck to close-ups, which made sense because they were changing the structure of the film. So you couldn't use too many wide shots, or it would have shown that the locations completely changed. I thought that was pretty interesting. If you're cutting out a lot of the Justine stuff, it honestly should have been a rewrite, to be honest, if you're going to change the character and omit so much. But how they covered up that edit was pretty clever. I'll give them credit. I had no idea those were two completely different scenes stitched together. The weirdest thing is the monster doesn't make the wedding night threat. He just says, "You will honor your promise to me." That's like a big moment from the book where the creature says, "I'll be with you on your wedding night." Don't know why they cut it out. It looks like they filmed it at the same time. I looked at the clips, like the makeup and all matches. I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not in the work print cut. There's a scene in the work print where Henry is the one to convince Victor to stop what he's doing and go to Elizabeth. I'm guessing they decided to cut out that earlier scene of Henry being concerned and realized that this scene didn't make any sense any longer. In the theatrical cut, Henry knows Victor is trying something, but doesn't know what exactly. Here he has a better idea. But since those scenes had to go, it's my guess they reshot the scene with Victor and the creature to make it seem like it was Victor's choice to end things. We get an extended scene of Victor talking to Elizabeth, begging her to stay, but at this time they do one final callback to the "I won't if you won't" line.
So don't be frightened.
I won't. If you won't.
Henry not knowing what's going on that much in the theatrical cut makes this scene where Victor brings the dead Elizabeth home to reanimate her kind of not make sense in that version. It makes sense in this version. In the work print cut, Henry knows what Victor's capable of, or has a really good idea, and knows what he plans to do. In the theatrical cut, it doesn't seem like Henry knows what Victor did. He knows he was trying something. He doesn't know if he pulled it off or anything. There's never a scene where Victor tells him. So yeah, now this scene where he begs Victor not to bring Elizabeth back kind of stands out and doesn't make sense in the final product. You honestly probably could have just cut Henry out of this scene. I think the scene only exists so someone was able to tell Victor that his dad died. And that's it. I mean, I don't think you need it. Here, let's try it. Let's cut Henry out of the scene and see if it flows better. And the last thing I found in the work print cut is the final scene with Henry and Victor. And I might have mentioned this in the initial video. Henry kind of forgives Victor for all his wrongdoings. He shouldn't. Victor sucks. And they part. He tells Henry his plan. He's like, "I'm going to go north and I'm going to go kill that guy." So that's it for the work print cut. But there might have been a little bit more cut out that didn't make it into any version. And for that, I'm going to look at the 4-part Topps comic series of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and see if we can find any additional stuff. Now, a lot of times with these novelizations and comics, and rarely video games, actually, no, probably commonly with video games, the people making them are given a version of the script. And sometimes that version of the script does not match a later version of the script that actually gets used. So little deleted things make their way into these novelizations and comic adaptations that don't make it into the final product of the film. And I found a few. First of all, these comics are beautifully illustrated and come with cool trading cards. I used to collect cards for movies all the time as a kid, so these get me a little nostalgic. I'd say get these comics for the beautiful covers alone. Anyway, the comic seems to follow the Workprint's idea of the creature climbing onto the ship in the beginning. There's an added line in the dance scene where Justine asks to dance with Victor and her mom shoots it down. The comic includes the dog scene, which before the Workprint was leaked was the only confirmation I could think of this scene existing. It also includes the scene of Henry telling Victor that their schoolmate died. In the comic, though, Victor digs up the grave instead of visiting that morgue. The adaptation seems to suggest that there was a scene where Victor animates a human arm, much like Waldman animated the chimpanzee arm at his lab earlier. I'm guessing if this did exist in the script, it never ended up getting shot. They make a point to show that in addition to the journal, the creature also had Elizabeth's letters. In the film, it's believed that the creature planted the necklace on Justine to frame her for William's murder. Here, he says he gave it back to her to be nice. Her getting framed was a total coincidence and not a deliberate act. There's an added moment where Victor speaks with his father. His father begs him to marry Elizabeth. This is followed by the Justine and prostitutes corpse scenes from the Workprint cut. It makes it seem like the creature killed Victor's father by giving him something. Poison, I think. He also threatens to kill someone who finds him unless he tells him where Victor and Elizabeth are going. Finally, we have Victor's death. In the comic, and according to the trading card that came with it, he was supposed to still be alive when the creature shows up. He asks for Walton's gun to presumably kill the creature, but instead, he exchanges it for the journal. He ends up asking for forgiveness before he dies in the creature's arms. I don't think this was ever shot, though. In the theatrical cut, Walton tells his first mate that Victor died. They probably came up with the idea to change the ending while still shooting, but after giving the comic writers the script. That is the Frankenstein, the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein Workprint cut, and the missing scenes that I found in the comic adaptations. This movie is endlessly fascinating to me. I probably will talk about it again someday. You know, they made several video games based off this film. I should probably explore those. That is the Workprint. I want to thank you guys for watching. You guys really, really dug the Halloween 2 video I did about the TV cut of Halloween 2. And this is probably coming out after my Alien 3 Workprint cut. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying these episodes. I want to do more of these. Shout out to my fan again, Tyler Yost, for supplying this Workprint cut. You are awesome. I owe a lot to you. And shout out to Nick Coad, I think. I'm going to put his Instagram thing here. He did art based off the movie and Bram Stoker's Dracula and The Mummy, because he's a fan of my show and he was watching the movies because of my show. He did this beautiful art here. I love this. And if you're new to this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Check out the main show that I keep plugging. Definitely check out the Frankenstein episode. Check out the Bram Stoker's Dracula episode. They're a two-parter episode. They're really good to watch back to back. We do new episodes every Monday. It's a podcast format. We're talking as a panel discussion. And lately I've been doing these little bonus videos on Thursdays. Speaking of bonus videos, I have a Patreon, and we do a lot of additional content there. There's multiple tiers that you can check out. We do commentary tracks, bonus reviews. I make exclusive wallpapers for the fans. I started doing exclusive streams. There's a lot. We have a big back catalog on there that you can go through, and it's a lot of fun. Anyway, that is it from me. If you can recommend any other Workprints, alternate cuts, or TV cuts of films, let me know. I would love to explore those and do more breakdowns. Goodbye.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.